RealTime Fantasy Sports presents 5 Fantasy Takeaways.
Hello and welcome to the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer at the RealTime Fantasy Sports. On today's show, I'm going to give you 5 of my favorite fantasy takeaways from Week 17 of the fantasy football season. It's championship week for a lot of you this week. It was a bit of an uneven week. We had some absolutely monster performances from guys like Derrick Henry and Brock Purdy. Then we also had some guys disappear and have some of their worst games of the season at bad times for fantasy owners. So hopefully you were one of those owners that took advantage of some of those big games, came out victorious in Week 17. But here are 5 of my fantasy takeaways for this week. My first one is don't trust Taysom Hill. He was started on 17.3% of leagues on our site. So that's a lot of leagues that started him. Nearly a fifth of all the leagues on our site had someone starting Taysom Hill this week. How did he reward them? Not a single fantasy point. 3 carries, no yards, no receptions. Previous game, 16 touches. Everybody got excited about him. But remember, that was just his first game all season with double-digit fantasy points. So if you took a chance on him, it was a big risk. You went for it, and it did not pay off. But for me, it shows that you just can't trust Taysom Hill, especially at this point of his career, where he's kind of nearing the end. He's been around a while, not the same player as he was earlier in his career. My next takeaway for this week is stuff happens in fantasy that you just can't control, unfortunately. Not always fun to deal with, but there were several instances this week. First one, Josh Jacobs barely played despite being active for the game. No one saw this coming. It just absolutely killed fantasy owners that used him this week. He did absolutely nothing in his game. And then also, we had a couple players battling illness, some players that had been started on a lot of teams this week. Ted McMillan, DJ Moore, both of them apparently were battling some fairly serious illnesses. They played, but they didn't do much. Ted McMillan, I think they said he had an IV before the game. DJ Moore had been sick as well. Elidime Zacchaeus, easy for me to say, he didn't even play because of the illness, and that's on the same team as DJ Moore. So obviously this thing was really wreaking havoc with a lot of players in the NFL. There's a lot of crazy illnesses going around, but there's sometimes things you just can't control. Stuff happens, unfortunately, and hopefully it didn't impact you too much this week, but that's fantasy football. You wake up Sunday morning, somebody could be sick, somebody could throw out their back. It's just unfortunate, but it's the reality of things you have to deal with when you're a fantasy football owner. My next takeaway is Tyler Shuck is firmly on my fantasy radar going forward. Best fantasy game of the season this week, 25.25 fantasy points. He has 20-plus fantasy points, 5 straight games. This offense has been unbelievable lately. Shuck also has 270-plus passing yards, 3 straight games. He's doing this too. He has Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson basically as his top pass catchers on this team. And he's getting it done on a weekly basis. I don't know how he's doing it, but he's doing it. And if they get more weapons next year for him, if they draft a receiver, if they sign someone to go along with Olave, a legit number 2, I think Shuck's going to be an exciting fantasy player for the future. And I'm really looking forward to his fantasy value going forward. I think he's going to be a legit player. It's going to help fantasy team for years. He's really been impressive. And Kellen Moore, too, has done a fantastic job with that team in New Orleans. My next takeaway is I want to see Malik Willis starting somewhere next season. He was unbelievable for the Packers, 18 of 21 for 288 yards and a touchdown with no interceptions. He also ran for 60 yards and 2 scores and his loss to the Ravens. But, man, he looked good. I think this reset with Green Bay has been great for him. He's had some time to sit back and learn. He's still really young. I'd love to see some team take a chance on him next year. I think he could be a fantasy factor because he has that dual threat ability, and he just has impressed me with his chances this year. So give me Malik Willis in the starting lineup for some team next year. My last fantasy takeaway for this week is it took some time, but rookie running backs Omarion Hampton and R.J. Harvey, they've arrived. Both have been good players recently, and I think they're going to be top 10 fantasy backs next year. Harvey, he has 5 straight games with a touchdown to end his season, 20-plus fantasy points, 3 of those games as well. And Omarion Hampton, 16-plus fantasy points, 2 straight games, touchdowns, 3 of 4 also. So a lot of people had high hopes for these guys. They kind of started slow, but man, they got going. And don't forget about Travion Henderson too, another guy that he's been a little bit more consistent than both these players. But those are 3 rookie fantasy backs that have been good this year, and they're going to be problems for fantasy owners for years to come. They're going to be really good players, in my opinion. So this rookie running back class is looking pretty dang good. All right, those are 5 of my fantasy takeaways for week 17 of the fantasy football season. I hope you came out on top in all of your fantasy championships this week, and you had a great holiday. This has been Jeff Paur for RealTime Fantasy Sports.